Back in 2016, I was working at a roadside diner west of St. Cloud, Minnesota. Neat little place. Had a bit of a 60s vibe to it, but without the hairdo. On the slow hours of the day, or whenever we just had locals around, I'd be humming along with the chefs playing radio out of the kitchen. It wasn't an exciting time, but it was nice to have a workplace that felt like a second home. A couple of weekends a month, we had an all-night crew to serve passing truckers. You rarely ever had to do more than one shift though, and we got to make our own schedules. Our boss was pretty hands-off. It was during one of those shifts, at the first week of early summer, that my life took a turn for the worse, and I didn't even realize it. We were used to having the occasional odd customer during those hours of the day. When this guy walked in, I didn't know what to think. He was about 6'2", bald, and pale as chalk. He wore this worn-out t-shirt that looked like it had been on fire. With every step, he dragged his feet and collapsed in one of our booths, seemingly exhausted. I looked back at the chef, and he just shrugged. The guy wasn't hurting anyone, but he didn't look like he was all there. But a job's a job, so I went up to him. "You alright there?" He looked up at me like I was speaking a foreign language, then sunk his head back down, gently shaking it.
Nah, I don't think I am.
He had this voice on the knife's edge between a hysterical laugh and a howling cry. He was trembling. "You need me to call someone?"
Call?
"Yeah, call someone."
How?
I didn't understand the question. I figured he was coming down from some kind of binge, and I wasn't about to take any chances. I asked the chef to get me a side of bacon to keep the guy calm while I called the police. As I slid the plate over to him, he sunk his face into his hands, sobbing.
Thank you. Please.
I sat down across from him, instinctively reaching out to grab his hand. He let me. Even at a light touch, I could feel the scars on his palms and fingertips. Whatever had happened to him, it must have been awful.
I can't go back. Don't make me go back. I can't. Please, I can't.
"You're not going anywhere. It's okay. You're safe here."
Can you help me? Can you keep him out?
"I'm sure we can figure it out. Just eat up. It's okay." His fingers trembled as he tentatively bit off a piece of bacon. His teeth were black, and he flinched.
I need time. I need time to run.
"Don't worry. We've called for help."
I just need time.
We just sat there for a while. He calmed his breathing, but kept staring out the window. I could tell he was looking for something, or someone. All I could see was the road and a handful of moths. We sat there for some time, in silence, as he carefully nibbled on the slices of maple bacon. As two police officers entered the diner, he got up from his seat. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small bundle of scrunched up trash, a couple of singles, a plastic card, dirt, and something resembling animal bones. He tried to straighten out the bills, pushing them into my hands along with the laminated card.
I need time. I'll come back. Please.
I didn't understand. I just nodded and accepted it. Seconds later, the officers asked him to step outside and explain the situation. I got busy taking orders from a couple of passing truckers, watching glimpses of the scene through the window. A couple of minutes later, the strange man was taken away. My shift ended at sunrise. I dragged myself to my car with a yawn, shuffling around my pockets for the keys. I hadn't thought much about the items he handed me, but I took a closer look. I'd thrown away the animal bones and dirt, but there were a couple of dollar bills and that laminated card left. I checked the card first. It looked like some kind of bookmark. On one side it was completely white, and on the other side, there were dried blue sunflower petals arranged in a spiral. Kinda reminded me of a sunflower. And finally, there were the dollar bills. I didn't pay much attention to these at first, just a couple of singles. But after a closer look, I noticed something unusual. There was a man on the bill that I didn't recognize. It took me a couple of Google searches to realize that this man was Walter Mondale, the man who had lost to Ronald Reagan's second run for president back in 1984. Why was this man on a $1 bill? Before heading to bed, I put the items down on my nightstand. In a moment of silent wonder, I looked out the window. What had that man been looking for? What had he been running from? There was nothing out there, just a couple of moths. Waking up the next morning, I had the full day off. I spent it cleaning my apartment, watching movies, having dinner with a couple of friends, and finishing off the night with a couple of drinks at the pub down on the corner. No binge or anything, just got a bit boozy. I was still planning on being in bed by midnight. I took the scenic route home, a long walk, all the way down Main Street, past the lake. I took a shortcut through the park by the final stretch, speeding up a bit. That place was trouble. As I hurried by the fountain, I spotted someone in the distance, a shrouded figure at the edge of the streetlights. I stopped to observe it for a second, but as I did, the lights flickered. Coming back on, the figure was gone. I chalked it up to my imagination. I was a bit drunk after all. Besides, it was small like a child. What the hell would a kid be doing out here at this hour? A couple of days passed. I didn't notice anything unusual, but I kept coming back to that distressing feeling of missing something important. Looking back at it now, I just feel dumb. He was there all along, outside the supermarket, in the parking lot, off the highway. Hell, he was outside my window at night sometimes, but just too short for me to spot him. I'm getting ahead of myself. It wasn't until one morning that I was driving to work that I got a clear view of him. I was crossing a four-way street, taking a sharp left turn. When I had to throw myself on the brakes, there was a kid in the middle of the street. I hadn't seen him that clearly before. He was probably around 6, maybe 7 years old, wearing a plain black shirt and a pair of light blue canvas pants, short black hair, dark eyes, and no shoes. That particular detail stuck with me. No shoes. Why? I almost lost control, but I was lucky. There wasn't much traffic, and I managed to stop further down the road. There were black lines in the pavement from my screeching tires swerving back and forth. Regaining my composure, I looked in the rearview mirror. The kid was gone, but that was just the start. I'd spot him every now and then, looking out the window at work, at the gas station, a passing face in the crowd when shopping for groceries. Every now and then, something would pull on my attention, forcing me to whip my head around, looking for the source of that ill feeling crawling up my spine. Sometimes I saw him, and even worse, sometimes I didn't. I remember lying awake at night, hearing moths tap against my window. There was nothing outside. Nothing outside. I patrolled my apartment 6 times, checking every window. I'd looked everywhere, and there was no reason for me to feel the way I did. I was growing paranoid. And yet, in the morning, my front door was unlocked and slightly open. It all came to a head one afternoon when I was out on my smoke break. I'd barely slept for the past 3 nights, and you could kinda tell I was having a bad day. As I stood there, leaning against the side door of the diner, I see the kid again, this time just across the road, maybe 50 feet or so away. I'd had enough. This had to end. I was furious. I stormed forward, calling him out with every slur and curse I could think of. I was psyching myself up. I was in the right, and I refused to be harassed anymore. Kid or not, didn't matter. I crossed the road, barely dodging a speeding Jeep, and met him face to face. "What the hell do you want?" I'd yell. "Why are you following me?" He was completely expressionless. He didn't even flinch. No matter how much I pointed or screamed, I snapped my fingers in front of his eyes, and he didn't even blink. He just stared at me, like a porcelain doll head on a swivel. I wasn't thinking about the bystanders, though. A couple of middle-aged men stepped up, asking in no kind terms what the hell was wrong with me. I was held back and restrained. Someone called the police. Someone else called my manager. I'd forgotten to take off my apron, so they could see the diner logo. A couple of people filmed it. One of the videos got like 120,000 views in a day before it fell off the map. I still see it as a react gif sometimes. It was a disaster. After a couple of officers came by to talk to me, he just disappeared into thin air. The officers took me down to the station, not to detain me, but to get me away from the heated crowd. That car ride downtown sobered me up to what the hell was going on. I was being stalked by this kid, but there wasn't a living soul out there that would believe me. Well, maybe one. Maybe. I was asked a couple of questions and released within about a half an hour. They told me to go home and sleep this whole thing off. That wouldn't be a problem. I didn't have a job to go back to anyway. According to the many texts I'd gotten, I had all the goddamn time in the world. I was just about to leave when something came to mind. The two officers who had picked me up were still waiting by their car when I turned back to them. Sorry, you picked up the guy I called about at the diner, right?
Yeah, sure did.
You got any idea what happened to him? The two looked at one another for a moment, shrugged, and turned to me.
Well, he didn't have an ID and he gave a fake name. I think they took him to psych.
Psych?
Well, he was saying some, strange things. There were interviews with The
two quieted down and flashed me a smile.
There's not much we can say.
Coming home, I decided to get to the root of this. It didn't take me that long to find the place where the guy had been taken. There aren't a lot of mental health facilities in this part of the country, especially facilities that accept involuntary subjects. But my eyes kept drifting back to the strange dollar bills he'd given me, resting neatly on my nightstand. They were so detailed. A bit old, sure, but that only made them seem more genuine. What the hell was he doing with a handful of clearly fake dollar bills? Like, what's the purpose? There had to be a purpose. That unnerved me. I managed to arrange a meeting. It wasn't easy, and I think a lot of it boiled down to the police having no idea what could make this guy talk. For some reason, he kept providing them with false information. Maybe a familiar face, for one reason or another, might make him talk. Just a couple of days later, I was putting my items in a metal bowl on the second floor at a mental health institute in the next town over. I asked one of the nurses if I could keep one of my dollar bills. Apparently, that was okay. I was shuffled through a couple of locked doors and escorted to an off-white side room. No decor, no locks. The guy was already there. He'd been dressed down into these neutral egg-white garbs. It was strange seeing him in a lit-up room like this. I didn't know what to expect. Getting a closer look at him, he was probably in his 50s. It had been hard to tell earlier. I couldn't get over just how pale he was. It was almost a complete lack of pigment. It looked sickly. His thin arms didn't help. He looked malnourished. And yet, he was smiling.
Hello.
Hello to you too. You doing okay?
I'm pretty good. Thank you.
I sat down across from him and took out the dollar bill he'd given me. I wanted to ask you about this.
For the bacon.
Excuse me?
Sorry, was that not enough?
No, it's... I took a moment to compose myself. I had too many questions. He sighed, took the bill, and looked it over. Looking back at me, I could tell there was something painful stirring in his mind. His smile slowly faded.
Sorry. I try to forget sometimes. It's easier than making sense of it.
Let's start with something simple. Like, your name. Where you're from.
Those things are pretty far from simple.
He was looking straight through me, his eyes sinking back to deeper, more uncomfortable thoughts. His name was Samuel, and he was born around these parts back in the 1970s. He'd worked as a telecommunications specialist just right outside of St. Cloud back in the 90s. He had a wife, 3 children, and a 4-bedroom house.
But that was all before, see? Then it all just...
Just what? What happened? He looked at me, opening and closing his mouth, looking for the right words to come out. Nothing happened. He shook his head, trying again.
It started with the street preachers. Hundreds of them, and marching on every city, all saying the same doomsday shit as always. World was dying, all coming to an end.
I haven't seen anything like that.
Then there were storms. Some would last for weeks, others longer. Entire cities would be flooded or torn apart. Earthquakes causing monster waves along the east coast, sending shockwaves all the way to the mainland. Then Yellowstone.
Yellowstone?
Yeah, lights out.
Samuel was painting this apocalyptic vision of a world undone. Catastrophe after catastrophe. Hooded people marching the streets, screaming for the mercy of a mad god. But there was more to it.
Then things stopped making sense. It's as if the rules changed. Roads would stop leading home, trees would change color, people turned twisted and corrupted like one of our neighbors couldn't eat anything but gunpowder. There was a woman just down the street who tried to kill anyone wearing glasses. It was pandemonium.
I didn't say anything. What he was saying didn't make any sense, but he was trying to keep his rambling coherent.
The plants died. Trees, too. The only thing that could grow in that environment were these twisted blue things that popped up out of nowhere. But people are what got twisted the most.
He told me of these towering 7-foot-tall humanoid creatures that roamed the forest. Black as night, not even reflecting light. Arms reaching all the way to their knees. Elongated, inhuman things that used to be someone he knew.
The doomsayers all said the same thing, that God was a scared little boy and that he was dying. Everything that was happening was just an expression of that ceaseless, bottomless, existential grief.
Samuel looked back and forth, finally burying his face in his hands.
It all broke down. Roads stopped leading anywhere. No power, no water. Julie changed. Ollie changed. Toby made himself a mask and wandered off into the woods. Ira just disappeared, and for years. Has it been years? It's just been me.
But you're here now, and what you're describing, it didn't happen.
It happened. Just not here, but here.
He tapped his finger on the $1 bill.
Somewhere, somehow, I must have taken a wrong turn. I slipped through something broken, and now I'm here, and he's coming back to me. He doesn't want anyone to leave.
Who?
Just a sad little boy who's been told he's going to die.
I didn't know what to say. I just sat there with him for a while, holding his hand. Before I left, Samuel got up from his chair. He looked at me, forcing himself to smile.
If I go back, I'll try not to be like him, and I'll try, and I'll be the one to say something.
He let out a painful little laugh, shaking his head.
Maybe just a hello.
I left that day with more questions than answers. I couldn't picture the world he had lived through. Then again, how could it be true? None of it had happened. But what was he gaining from lying about it? That was the last time I saw Samuel. A few days later, he went missing, as if he had just disappeared into thin air. I didn't know what to think of it. There was nothing on the cameras, no one entering or leaving the building. No quick escapes, no clever plans. He just walked into his room and disappeared. Nothing left but a couple of moths fluttering about. And for a while, that was it. That was the end of the story. I got busy looking for a new job, and all the little items given to me by Samuel were put away in a little box in my glove compartment. Life soldiered on, and no matter how many questions I had, there was no one around to answer them. Even the strange kid that had been following me was, seemingly, gone. A couple of months later, I was driving home from a friend's place. I stopped at a four-way street, waiting for a couple of trucks to pass, when there was a knock on the passenger side window. I almost choked on my own spit. Scared me half to death. Looking out, I could see that kid again. I hadn't seen him for some time, and I quickly bounced between curiosity and downright anger. "What do you want?" I yelled out. There was no response. Instead, the door just opened. It was locked. As he opened the door, he pointed to the glove box. "You want his things?" I asked. "Is that it?" He nodded. I wanted to lash out, but there was something telling me I shouldn't. Instead, I reached over, opened the glove compartment, and pointed to the box. "Just take it and leave me alone," I said. "Get it over with." He reached in and grabbed the box. So much effort for a couple of mementos. I turned my head back to face the road. The kid backed out, but of course, I had to get the last word in. Not even a thank you. That made him pause. He looked at me, tilting his head. As he opened his mouth to speak, a moth fluttered out, then another, and another, then darkness. What happened next is hard to describe. My memory of it is fragmented. It's like trying to watch a buffering video, where long stretches of it are just nothing. But you know something was supposed to happen in between. Blink. I was sitting in my car. There was a dark blue sky. No clouds, no stars. Figures in the distance. An open field with blue sunflowers bending to a howling wind. A powerful stench of ammonia stinging my nostrils. Something to my immediate left, ripping the car door straight off the hinges. Blink. Running. Ruins of a town. It seemed familiar, but there was barely anything left. My leg was bleeding. I was being followed. No matter where I turned or where I ran, I seemed to end up at the same intersection. Blink. A 3-story building, brimming with life. Glimpses of arm-long antenna running through broken windows. Clicky-clack of bursting wings tapping against crumbling concrete. A loud warning shriek as something rubs its legs together. A call for prey. Blink. Hiding in a tipped-over trash container. The rain has stopped in midair. Raindrops held in indefinite suspension. I suck water drops out of the air to quench my thirst. My hands are shaking from the blood loss. Countless images. Some in order, some not. I have no idea how much time passed. In the moment, it must have been much longer than I can remember. Days, weeks even. There's no way to tell. Blink. Walking through a barren field. It feels like walking through a dead forest, but there are no trees. Only those willingly impaled and wailing. Blink. An abandoned booth by a broken highway. A sign offers phone calls in exchange for real teeth. There are 6 sizes of pliers hanging on a wall within. All are bloodied, even the small ones. Blink. The church that burned down the night before had reappeared. The people inside, too. They couldn't leave. Tonight, they will burn again. Somewhere in this nightmarish puzzle-pieced fragment of nothing, there was a constant drive in me to get away, to get out. I knew that if I'd gotten here, I could get back home again. I just had no idea how. Maybe finding the kid, asking, begging, something. The last fragmented memory from that space was being cornered in a cellar. They were banging on the door. I tipped over a wardrobe to keep them out, but they weren't going to stop. They were never going to stop. I couldn't let them kill me again. Not like this. One of the changed ones were coming. I don't know what that means, or how I know the name, but I knew of it. There was a mirror, and I could see the signs. It stepped out, 7 feet tall, black as night. Elongated arms and neck, barely a body at all. Just a void space, vaguely shaped like the remnants of a person. Except this one felt familiar. It was the first one to speak.
Hello.
Blink. Running. A cold hand. If I squeezed too hard, my fingers went straight through it. I had to keep up. He was showing me something. Blink. They were flooding over the school bus, tipping it by their sheer numbers. Eruptions from the sewer gates. They were famished. Blink. An open field. Sunflowers facing me. No matter where I turn, it's not far. Blink. I look back as I'm pushed over the edge. He looks just like the rest of them. They aren't angered by his betrayal. They feel nothing as I fall. In February of 2017, I was found by the side of the road. I'd been gone for months. My car was too. I came back with nothing but the clothes on my back and countless scars. I've been told that I didn't make any sense at first. I was just rambling nonsense. Or maybe it just sounded like nonsense to these people. Over time, I forgot more and more of these fragmented images, and the less I remember, the more I can move on. Still, I've written them down over time, and they paint an ugly, insane picture of what I had been going through, some of which I, myself, have a hard time believing. Then again, I know myself well enough to see that there's no point in lying. I haven't seen Samuel or that strange kid ever since. I think this is all over. For now, there's nothing left for me to give. But even now, years later, I still wake up to that feeling at night, that there's something wrong, or that I'm forgetting something, that there's something near that I'm looking straight through, or past, and every now and then, I hear the flutter of a moth's wings, tapping against my bedroom window, and I think I know what it wants. It wants me to go back.